guys. Kevin Hale up in the house tonight, the Shooting from the Lip House. It's the Sunday night sports night round of sports shots on November 25th, 2018. First up, first guest is someone who does Kentucky football radio. He's also Cincinnati Reds sports broadcaster. This weekend here in Louisville, where I reside, was pretty fun for us Kentucky fans. Not so fun for my L1C4 friends, but it is what it is. But Jeff, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out with me, man.
No problem, dude.
You were in town.
Yep.
You got to witness one of our better games of the season. Pretty complete game. Now you can argue was our performance because we were clicking on all cylinders, or was it a combination of the opponent and their?
Okay, so you're talking about Kentucky and not Louisville, obviously.
Well, yeah. Talking about
because
Kentucky.
Louisville wasn't clicking on also. I'll tell you what, in all honesty, too, and look, Tom Jurich transformed that campus into a real urban setting, I guess, into a great campus, man. I mean, what he did, the money that they brought in there, the money they raised, you just can't argue with what he did. Now, you can argue with the way he did it, I guess, and what he took out of it. But I think he's transformed that university into, I would say I don't want to say second tier, but the little sister to the University of Kentucky.
Yeah. And
made it a place. I remember when I was in school, for instance, when I was going through high school, and you said, "Hey, you want to go play for Louisville?" You're like, "Hell, I'm not going to Louisville." You know what I mean? And now it's a nice place, man.
Yeah.
The upgrades that stadium is awesome, and I can't wait until. And really, look, I cheer for Louisville. There's no reason not to. I know a lot of people it's either blue or red, but I liked Rick. I thought he did a great job. Chris Mack is a friend of mine. I do a lot of work with him with his foundation. He and his wife Christy, they're great people. Yeah. Obviously, you're going to see him turn that basketball program around. I thought, as I said, I thought Jurich did a great job while he was there and what he did.
He did
to resurrect that university. But I have never seen a Division I team that was supposedly a pretty good team that bad. I mean, they were absolutely horrible. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah. The expectations here in town and amongst my friends were, they would sneak in with enough wins to get, into a bowl. They did not see this train wreck coming. And how much of that, I guess let's get some Louisville conversation out of the way right away. But how much of that, Jeff, was the Lamar Jackson factor?
Yeah, I mean, I think he covered up a lot of problem spots that was there with Louisville football. I mean, he was that good. And we're seeing him now in the NFL.
Yeah.
He started 2 games, they've won 2 games.
Right.
But yeah, I think he was fantastic. But I think it's deeper than just. I think it's Bobby Petrino and the fact that there's not a lot of people that say anything good about him. I mean, I live in a professional city.
Right.
And there's not a coach in the Bengals staff that would consider either working for him or him working for them. I mean, in the NFL circles, he is burnt toast, man. There's nobody wants to touch him, And I think that you look at his staff, and he had his son. His son has there's no way he should be the quarterback's coach at a school of that size. And his 2 son-in-laws, and
right.
And you see the problems they have there, and it's just it's not a good situation. And for your guys' sake, I hope you get Jeff in there because he's from Louisville. He played there. His family's there. He knows everybody. For your sake, I think you need to get him. For Kentucky's sake, I hope you don't because that's really going to slam some doors, I think, in recruiting. It's going to be awful hard to recruit against Prom.
Well, I live in the city, but I bleed blue. I'm just making sure we got that straight. Bobby, how things just the wheels fell off this season. I mean, it took a complete 180 with that program. And you mentioned his son and stepsons, train wreck. And staying with him real quick. I want to say a couple years ago, their defense was like top 20,
Right,
top
right.
10 to 20. I mean, they had a badass defense, and I mean, yeah, just things have just fallen off the rails. And we touch on Brom. Brom after yesterday's game, Indiana, their win against
Right.
Indiana.
Yep.
I don't know if he's saying the right things or whatever, but he told his team that they had nothing to worry about. He mentioned it in the presser afterwards that this is where Purdue is where he wants to be. I think it'd be a huge blow to Louisville if he turned them down.
Well, I think let's talk about Brom first. He's in the catbird seat here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had what he's done at Purdue is something they haven't had since Drew Brees was there. I mean, this
Right.
is they've had, now they're going to go back-to-back bowls. You have a signature win in his second year. You beat Ohio State, and not just beat them, you beat down Ohio.
Right.
I mean, it was like the Louisville Kentucky game when he close.
Right.
I mean, you had Ohio State quit in that game. And he's got a nice recruiting class that he had. He got the kid from Louisville that's up there that's killing it as a true freshman.
Right.
And I think he sees it this way. He's starting to build something there, and I think he's got a great rapport with the people that are in charge at Purdue, and he's got Drew Brees behind him. As the biggest Purdue alum there in football.
Right.
And I think you look at Louisville, and that's not a one-year turnaround, man. That is a mess.
Yeah,
it's
several years. Did you hear Western Kentucky had fired their football coach today?
I did not hear that. Really?
Yeah, so the rumors are already starting that
Petrino's going to go back there now.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Nothing would surprise me when it comes to him.
Yeah. Does he fall into great jobs or what? I think it's unbelievable. How much money is this guy going to rake in, man?
It's crazy. Let's talk about yesterday's game. Kentucky was, I want to say by game time, they were about 17-point favorites. A lot of blue, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of blue got in.
Yeah.
56-10 butt kicking. Again, I've touched on the fact that I thought the guys, Kentucky, we played a very solid game from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And well, give me your recap.
I thought that in a game like that, in a situation that Louisville was in, you have to come out and you have to establish two things. One, you've got to score, and you've got to set the tone early with your defense. And I thought they did that. They were able to. They got a penalty on the long run, so that helped. And then you come right back and boom, you score the touchdown, you get the ball back, you score another touchdown. So now you set the tone. Because the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want a team to stick around, because the longer they hang around, it's they get that false bravado, and then they start thinking, hey, we can play with these guys, and the fans get into it, and now anything can happen because it's a rivalry game. But you kind of took that away from them right from the start, and you're able to throw the ball well. I thought Terry Wilson played probably the best game of his career at Kentucky yesterday. I really liked the way he moved in the pocket to create some time for himself, the way he looked down the field, the way he ran the ball. I thought he played a really complete game.
Well, I think let's give Eddie Grant some credit because he's taken some taking some hits the last several weeks because of our inept offense. But I thought his game plan was pretty damn good last night.
I agree with you 100%. I thought he and Darren Hinshaw called a great game together, and that was. And I think what you're seeing too is it's the maturity of a young man. And I go back to Andre Woodson. And if you remember Andre, the first year that he played, he wasn't real good.
No.
And then the second year he started off and he had just an okay game, and then all of a sudden, boom, he became Andre Woodson,
Right.
And I think that we're seeing that with Terry too. Now Terry has a little bit more experience under his belt, but again, it's junior college, which is a lot different than playing in the SEC. But I think we've seen him get a lot more comfortable. He's more comfortable within the offense. He's a lot more comfortable audibling from line of scrimmage. And it's going to come where he'll be able, at the snap, to audible out of different things, which I talk about all the time, that Jared did, and Andre and Tim and Hartline, and some of those guys have been around, Dusty Bond, guys like that. But next year I think you'll see even more of that from the off. I tell you what, Kentucky's offense next year, and Benny's gone. He's going to go to the NFL. We all know that.
Right.
But AJ that kid can run. And we saw
Smoke.
Cavassier come in. Man,
What a name.
is that awesome? Is that a great name? What's your name, son? Cavassier. Come on. Hey, give me a Cavassier Coke.
It is. So that's when KS Bar is going to have to figure out the drink.
Ooh,
yeah.
A Cavassier smoke.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You touched on some of the return. Well, let's look at let's go touch on the defense.
Sure.
I thought last night, we gave up a couple of big plays, but
yes,
for the most part, the defense just owned the Cards.
I think the biggest thing with that defense is up front. They really play well at the line of scrimmage. And I think Quentin Bohanna next year is going to be an absolute animal.
Yes.
We got to see Josh a little bit last night. Pascal, I think he's going to be an absolute animal. They're starting to get some depth there. You got McCall and those guys playing. TJ and it's DeBose. There's a lot of guys up front now. And the one thing, as I was walking across the field to go to the locker room after the game, you guys, or I keep saying you guys, Louisville has those suites that are down in the end zone, which are actually really cool in that new area there. And there were two guys sitting there talking, and the one guy says, I can't believe they're just talking to each other. And I just happened to overhear him, and I stopped and I said, yeah, this is a real SEC team now. But they were talking about, I can't believe the size. We always had the bigger guys in Kentucky. And man, those guys were big. They look like NFL players. And that's the one thing that Mark, and I'll never forget this. This is actually a pretty cool story, Kevin. One of the first practices that Kentucky ever had when Stoops was there, he wanted everything videoed, okay, at the start, because he wanted to get to know the guys, what their strengths or weaknesses. So every drill, everything they did, they filmed everything. And so he's talking to the defensive backs coaches, and because he's obviously a defensive guy, and defensive backs coach was where he made his hay.
Right.
So he goes over to the defensive backs, and there's 8 guys, 10 guys, whatever it is over there, and the biggest guy is 5'11", 200 pounds, 6 foot, 205, and he's like, hey, are these the corner, are these the safeties? Where's the corner? They're like, no, coach, this is it. He's like, what? He goes, this is it. Is this your guys? And he just couldn't believe, that they're how diminutive they were. And then he goes over to Neil Brown out there with the wide receivers, and he's like, are these freshmen? Are these walk-ons? And he's like, no, these are the guys. And he's like, come on. And he goes, no, this is it. You've got, we got 8 guys here, 2 of them can catch. The other 6, he was like, oh my God. So, and now you look at them, and you're, all across the back, there's, your 3 cornerbacks are 6'3" and 6'4". Both your safeties over 6 feet, over 210 pounds. You've got size at the positions, and that's the one thing that he's done. He's made it more of a Florida State type of defense.
Yeah. To see where we're at right now, and to what Stoops went through the first few years, not to keep piling on Joker, but it's where we've come from with Joker to right now. It has been a process, and I think Stoops has proven that it's gonna take. It had to take time, but he had a plan on getting the right players in to become SEC caliber team. And
right. No, and look, you look at the guys. This is his 6th year. So now you're getting guys that have been through his system, 4 and 5 years. And the other thing, the 2 guys I haven't talked about that I think are going to be absolute studs on that defense are Oates and Square. I think both of those. Yeah, Chris Oates is. He looks like a strong safety now at 6'3" and about 220. I think next year he'll go to 235. And DeAndre Square is a guy, and I got to see him play a lot. And Chris, both of those guys play a lot in high school, especially Chris. And man, those 2 guys have got NFL talent written all over them. A bigger Wesley Woodyards, both of them.
Oh,
bigger players than Wesley at UK.
And last but not least on the deep, let's talk Josh Allen real quick.
Yeah.
You know, again,
That's easy. We could talk
yeah,
about him for next hour.
we could. He's done so much for himself this year. To he's what the latest mock drafts have him in somewhere in the top 15 for sure.
Yeah, maybe the top 10.
Yeah. So happy for him. What's give me a Josh Allen story.
24/7. These rating services
Mm-hmm.
will look at a kid and say, okay, and let's say from this area, okay, the Ohio Valley area, and say, okay, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan State are all on him. He's got to be a 4 or 5 star, and they give him 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just because he's 6'4", 235 pounds at the high school level,
Right.
and those guys are recruited, so they give him 4 stars. Now, sight unseen, Josh Allen has turned into maybe the best, hand on the ground rusher in college football. He was a 2-star coming out of college because
Monmouth.
He wasn't recruiting anybody. No, is he a 2-star? No. So you got to take these ratings. And another guy, and I don't want to pile on this kid because I think that
I think you're going to say who I was going to say, but go ahead.
He turned out being an absolute
dud.
Yeah, well, we used to call him a wuss, and that means waste of scholarship.
Waste of
yeah, a wuss. Yeah. But and that guy's a 5-star. You got a 5-star who never even saw the field because he couldn't play.
Well, what's kind of crazy about that one, Jeff, is that arguably the best, well, definitely in this era, the best college coach wanted him.
Yeah. Yes.
So
exactly.
Go figure.
Exactly, and that's what's amazing about recruiting. It's so hit or miss. I mean, Benny Snell, Ohio State. He played on their practice fields.
Mm-hmm.
He'd go over there, and so that just tells you, it's just a hit or miss type of deal. Now there are some guys, like there's a kid now at Covington Catholic that the tight end who is verbaled with Notre Dame. I mean, he's a can't miss. He's 6'5", 245 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, and plays on the basketball team. Those guys, those are can't miss guys, and those guys are easy to see. They're easy to find, but they're also going to be found at Ohio State, Notre Dame, they're Alabama, LSU.
Mm-hmm.
But now the doors have been open for Kentucky. That's the cool thing. You talk to Vince Meyer, and he says guys that wouldn't even take our call are now going, dang,
right. Mm-hmm.
If Josh Allen could do that and he's graduating, man, maybe I could, maybe I should take a look at this. And winning 9 games and going to a New Year's Day bowl, all of that trickles down to recruiting. Because they get to see, that's why I thought it was unbelievable they got the kid that they got the other day. And I don't know how much I can say I don't know if I can say his name on here because I work for the university, but to get him is a great get. You're
talking about the in-state
kid.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a bona fide 4-star who can run, who can catch. And that's what's so, you get guys like that now who maybe before wouldn't look at you. And now they do, and that's why it's so big to win and go to bowl games. It's not just for the kids that are playing; it's for if you're at Kentucky, it's to continue to grow that program. If you're Ohio State, you have an off year, and you go to not a New Year's Day bowl, it's not going to kill you. But if you're Kentucky, you continue to just go to those second level bowls.
Right.
I mean, Music City Bowl's great. Don't get me wrong; it's fun to go to national, all that. But after you've been there 2 or 3 times, are we ever going to take that next step?
Right. And we have.
And now you have. How do you maintain that? That's the key.
That is the key. And in Vince and Coach Stoops, we trust. They're killing it from a recruiting standpoint. I got to ask you, one of the more charismatic characters on this team is coming. It will be back next year. Our man, Stone Cold Cash Money.
He's a fun kid to be around.
Yeah. Did you hear his presser or his comments after the game?
He said something about we kicked their ass. And, yeah. This was pretty cool. So last year at the bowl game, and when you get to go to bowl games, there's things that are just for the teams. And
that was a wrestling last year, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So you heard about this.
I did.
Did you know they pulled him up in the ring?
I know.
Yeah, he got to go up in the ring with these guys and
you know that's what his next profession. He is going to wind up in a
He's Stone Cold
WWE
Steve
ring.
Austin.
Yeah, he will be.
Chris Jericho or something.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, you know what? Him and Landon Young are kind of the same kind of dudes, man. They just they put a cap on backwards after practice. They put a chew in and they go fish or something like that. You know.
I know.
You know, remember, you know, he'll be back next year. I think
right.
So. You know, you lose George, but you gain him. You know.
Right. Let's just kind of looking ahead real quick. You know, you touched on it from an offensive standpoint. On the offensive side, we got a lot of playmakers coming back. You know, AJ. I think the running back position is fine. Obviously, Terry coming back. The receivers. You know, with Bowden, what he really elevated his game this year, and maybe a lot of that was just, you know, I think his talent's always been there, but he became the go-to guy, and he delivered.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, part of that too, is gaining a little bit maturity. When you get to high school and you're a stud, you come up here, and all of a sudden you're going up against Alabama and Florida with their DB and Georgia, and you're like, holy, you know, damn, you know, you have to run perfect routes. You can't just go out there and run an out pattern and bend it. You know, you've got to learn nuances of how to lean into guys and how to lean away from guys and how to push off without extending your arm. And you know, you have to learn the tricks of the trade that you didn't have to do in high school. Hell, their receivers couldn't get off the line of scrimmage last year, and that was a big problem. Right. You know, and why can't we throw deep? Well, because we can't get anybody deep because they can't get, you know, by the time they get off the line of scrimmage, they can only get 10 yards downfield before the quarterback's running first line.
They've gotta, right. Yeah. That's a good point. Very good point. I'm curious, Jeff, have you ever, I mean, you are very knowledgeable of the game. Have you ever considered getting into coaching?
You know, I'm too old now to do that. If I would have done it 20 years ago, yeah, because I look at this now and this wasn't the case, but I mean, you know, you're paying these guys 10, 12, $15 million just to walk away. You know, it's crazy. I think that's what Jeff Braun is doing to Louisville. He's going, look, you pay me, you know, $6 or $7 million, I'll come back, but Louisville can't afford that. I don't care how many horse farms and whatever, you know, you've got to draw a line somewhere, don't you?
I've heard 4 to 4.5 a year right now is very realistic with him. And you know, from what I'm hearing from people I know who are close, but it's still, I mean, I don't know.
But still, do you want to? You going to take that to come back and get your brains beat it for a year or two? Right.
Exactly. You know? Bowl game. We touched on. You touched on it briefly, but you know, I saw some of the publications. Several of them had a Citrus Bowl, which would have, which would put us against looks like a Big Ten team. Yeah,
either Penn State or Northwestern, probably. Yep, because Wisconsin losing that really hurt. It probably would have been a nice game with Wisconsin. I think you could beat Wisconsin. I think you beat Northwestern. I don't know. Purdue would be a really good matchup. Real good matchup.
Yeah, but Purdue. What I'm guessing, what Big Ten team place? You know what? Because Purdue is 6-6. They got to be middle of the pack.
Yeah, no, they're middle of the pack. They're not. They can't.
Yeah, I would
get up because they're going to have what they've got. Wisconsin's ahead of them with 7 wins. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Right. You got Michigan. Ohio State's probably going to go to the. You know, that's what a mess. Okay, if Ohio State loses, if Northwestern beats Ohio State and Northwestern has 3 losses, they're not going.
They won't have. Big Ten will not have for the second year in a row. Big Ten will have a
representative in the Final Four.
All right. Now, you know, I have to admit, for shits and giggles, Jeff, I'm really hoping the playoff committee has a sense of humor and says, what the hell? This is the year. Bama's 1 seed, but they're the 4 seed and their first opponent, Central Florida. I want it to happen.
It was so heartbreaking to see
But the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean he was so good, and that's just so. But you know what? I know there's been a lot of talk on this, and especially in Central Florida, people saying that we should be in. Last year we should have been in. This year, and to me, what more could you? And I've heard people on national radio talk about this, saying Central Florida shouldn't because of the schedule they play. But okay, if I'm a good Power 5, if I'm Kentucky, I'm not going to go to play at Central Florida, right?
No one will.
Yeah, no one's going to go play them.
No.
They have the same problem Boise State has.
Right.
And nobody wants to go play Boise State because they've got a chance of getting beat.
Right.
And with that offense, it's like, look, could Oklahoma beat Alabama? Probably not. But Oklahoma's going to score 28 to 35 points against Alabama.
Probably, yeah.
Just because the sheer offense, just the numbers that they throw up there.
Yeah, but I think Alabama will score 60.
Exactly.
Tua.
Yeah, you couldn't stop. Right, they couldn't stop Alabama. Yeah. But what I was getting at is this: the gap, the chasm, the mountainous region between the Power 5 conferences and everybody else. All this is doing is making it even bigger, because last year Central Florida beat 3 top 25 teams. They won the regular season and their championship by beating another top 25 team, and yet the best they could do was get to the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
So and what they don't understand is it really hurts all the rest of the FBS that aren't in a power conference, because if you're a decent athlete, and I say this all the time to my friends here in Cincinnati, if you're a good player, why go to Cincinnati? Because if you're Luke Fickell, you're saying the best we can do is maybe get into a Peach Bowl, maybe. But if you finish second in the AAC, you're going to a .com bowl.
Right.
If you finish 5th in the SEC, you're in a January 1st bowl game.
But yeah, potentially, right.
Yeah. So why would you go to one of those minor schools? And I hate saying minor because they're not. I mean, Cincinnati's a good school. Boise State's a good, those guys don't have a chance. They just don't.
Jeff, how long do we have? How much longer you got?
However long you want. I'm just sitting here watching the Packers.
Okay. Well, I've got my other guests. They're on hold. They were scheduled to come on at 9. I'm going to turn on their mics. Everybody's going to we'll do some intros, and I'm going to let my posse that's coming on to chat it up with you as well. Michele Brown. Michele, are you there?
I'm here.
Michele Brown. Michele is co-host of Big Blue Views, Cameron Mills Radio, and is a co-host of Just Means More podcast with Carrie Lewis. Carrie, you there?
I am. How's it going?
Hey. Showrunner for Girls Beer Sports podcast.
Nice.
And we got Terry Brown. Terry is co-host of Cats Talk Wednesday, Cameron Mills Radio, and a fellow Louisvillian. TB, what's up, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm living the high life right now. So, yeah, I'm doing great.
I wish I had a high life right now.
Also,
I had a life.
Yeah. Also, Max Godby. Max is host of Big BB and Chalk Talk, and a fellow UK, fellow to you, Jeff, UK alum.
Yeah, but he's only half the size he used to be.
Fair.
And
half the man he used to be.
Last but not least, my past partner in crime on some of my shows, Heather Tungate, and probably is not feeling. It's not. Heather, are you in a bad mood because of the Browns spanking your Bengals today?
No, actually, I laughed. When you have a team as decimated by injury as the Bengals, and it keeps getting
you're playing
worse.
The injury card, right?
Well, no. Let me be clear. The games that they did win in the beginning of the season were against teams who are not doing too well right now either. So, you know what? It is what it is.
Okay. Very good. All right, guys. Jeff was my 8:30 guest. He, for some reason, has nothing to do for a while, so he's volunteering to stick around and hang out with us. So I thought I'm gonna give the floor to you guys. And Jeff was in the football booth or radio booth calling the game last night, which I think by everyone's account on this show, I think we were all happy with the turnout of the game. But I'm gonna let you guys speak up. Let's start with you, Michele. Michele, comment, question for Jeff, whatever.
Well, I have one of each. I have a comment and a question. The comment was the last touchdown last night. I've had a streak this season. I've had to pick my daughter up at work on Saturday night games, and every time I've had to do that this year, as soon as I've gotten in my car and turned on the radio, I hear Tom Leach say, "Touchdown, Kentucky," and which everybody wanted me to stay in my car in the Georgia game, except I was covering it, so I couldn't. But the funny thing that got me on that one was the first time when Tom Leach said the touchdown Kentucky, Jeff, I could hear you laughing in the background, and I just love that. I'm
glad you brought that up, Michele, because that is one of the best moments of listening to the radio. And it's Jeff's not even saying a word, but every time Tom does his touchdown Kentucky, Jeff has that little giggle. I love that. So cool.
And it's
what. Let me tell you guys, and Max knows this as a former player. When you see something that you've seen them work on in practice and stuff, and when you see it in the game and it works exactly like you drew it up, you're like, dang, I guess those coaches do know something, And it's one of those things. Or when I see a great. See, Tom watches the game through binoculars, and so he's only watching he's only watching the ball. And as a former player, Max probably watches from the inside out. He gets his keys just like a lineman does from what the linebackers do. I, as a wide receiver, get my keys from what the safeties do. If I see a safety walk up, then I know it's a single high safety, and that usually means it's man. And so I work from the back end, and Max works from the inside out. But you see how a play develops, and that's why I just kind of giggle, because it's like it was just a thing of beauty. I'm watching the entire 11, not just the football, and that's just, man, when you see something like that, it's just there's nothing more I can do.
Hey, Jeff, I want to bring this up to you since you already brought it up, and it was something. So Matt Smith and Greg Lyle were both at the game, and they were watching live. They were watching live. I was watching on TV, and I don't think the normal fan was able to realize it once the score started getting out of hand of how much UK was just superior than Louisville. But like the first, I could probably tell by the first drive, mostly the second drive, of just how undisciplined Louisville was playing. Yeah. Like you were saying, just looking at gap responsibilities, especially defensively for Louisville. It looked like to me, it's an easy cop out, just say Louisville sucks and they're a 2-10 team. But just looking at just how undisciplined that they played, how much whoever becomes the next head coach at Louisville, how much work do they have going in? Because it looks like it's just a culture. For me, the culture itself just looks like a cancer, just by the way that from just gap discipline and just discipline playing the game.
Yeah, I think, Max, there's two things. One, I don't think they're very well coached, and I don't think that there's you're not held accountable for your deeds out there. And I think the second thing is, I don't know the guys. I don't know any of them personally, but just watching them, it was very chippy. It was very thuggish. Does that work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean. There's guys hitting
exactly
up to the whistle and after the whistle almost every play. When you get to the bottom of a pile, the things that guys do in the piles, trying to stick their hands in your face mask, and it's just like Max said, undisciplined, and just you're not playing the spirit of the game. You're out there trying to hurt somebody instead of just play football.
Yeah, and I think what I think you're trying to say, because Matt and I were talking about this. Louisville, you could tell from the beginning, Snap was afraid of UK, and the reason they were afraid of UK was they weren't willing to hit during that kickoff return for Louisville. But as soon as they got a guy on the ground, they jumped him.
Yeah.
And to me, that's fake tough.
Yep.
So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Let's, Michele, I know you made your comment, but I think you have a question as well. Go ahead.
Oh, I did. And Jeff, one thing that I really appreciate, and I think at UK that we're spoiled. We were spoiled with Kay Woodleopard, and we're spoiled with Tom Leach, and with you, and Mike Pratt, and Christy Thomas, and Dick Gabriel, all of those, because you all do a whole lot of prep work before you get on a broadcast. I mean, last Sunday before the High Point game, we were sitting in the media room, and you were desperately seeking some kind of information on High Point so that you could talk about them. And we found out what they had 2 sentences. But there is an amazing lack of that, it seems to me, industry-wise. And when we listen to the television broadcast, we see so many announcers that don't bother to learn how to pronounce players' names or coaches' names, or know anything other than the top 3 bullet points. Willie Cauley-Stein was a wide receiver in high school. I mean, we heard that 946,000 times that season. So, if somebody wants to be the quality of broadcaster, let's say that you and Tom Leach and the UK Sports Network group is, how much time on an average week do you spend preparing for a game?
All right. Well, first of all, let me say thank you for those kind words. And secondly, for me, this is my profession. I don't do anything else. I don't sell cars. I don't sell real estate. I'm not an insurance salesman. This is my life. And my ex-wife, my girlfriend now, my kids will tell you that the TV's on sports if the TV's on. That's what I am. But for a game, I will usually you get the coaches teleconference, which is on Monday, and you get that. And you download that. It's all on our computers, which is nice now. And I actually don't do my charts until Thursday because, as Max knows, Wednesday is your big practice day. And that's when you put, everything goes in on Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday's when you're actually out there, and it's usually a full pads practice. And a lot of times guys can get banged up in that practice. And so Thursday, I don't do my charts until Thursday, meaning my board that I use. And I'll do that on Thursday. And then Friday, when we get to the hotel, if we're to an away game or when it's at home, Susan Lax and them will send out the final depth chart and stuff just to make sure. And then they'll tell us injuries, and then we usually get the visiting team's injuries when we get there. We know all the other announcers and stuff. So we talk to them, and they'll say, hey, this guy's not going to play. This guy's got a broken hand, whatever. So I would say time during the week for a football game, maybe 5 hours of prep work goes into that. And then the 2 to 3 hours were there before the game for football. In basketball, it's a little different because there's so many more games. When I do a basketball game like Wednesday, I've got all the stats now from the weekend's games and the tournament they were just in. So I'll probably do that on Tuesday. I'll write out my sheet for the game I'm doing Wednesday at noon. And then Wednesday morning when we get over there, I'll do the final prep work for it.
I just wish y'all would offer classes for the rest of the national media.
Well, and the other thing too, Michele, here's the thing. When you talk about names, for me and maybe for Max too, I didn't start 11 games, and so when I was in there, I hope that someone said my name and said it correctly, because it was so few and far between, when I got in there. And Kay Wood, I was never so surprised. Here's a quick real story for you. Coach Kersey, that's who I came in with. Great coach, by the way. But Otis Singletary was the president of the university, and we're in there. One day we were getting ready to play Tennessee. After the game. We'd beaten Tennessee, and it was Coach Kersey's last game. And Coach Dr. Singletary came in, and he went to each locker, and he came up to each guy. And he got to me, and here I am, a freshman, and had no idea. I knew that was Dr. Singletary, but he walked up to me. He goes, Jeff, great game. I'm so happy for you guys. I'm sure Coach Walton would be proud. And I'm like, how the hell did he know that I played at Tates Creek High School for Roy Walton? This is the president of the University of Kentucky, and So that's something that's always stuck with me. So I hope that when some parent listens and I say David Bouvier makes a great catch, that I say it correctly, if that's who made that great catch, you know what I mean? So, you that's the first rule of thumb, is learn how to learn every name. And before a game, usually the SID from the opposing team comes in and goes, do you have any questions on any of the names? So
there you go.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right. Hey, Michele, if he doesn't offer up classes, just get him on a podcast on a Sunday night.
Sure.
Or maybe a Monday night.
Or Monday night too.
I have a podcast on Monday night, Jeff. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. All right,
Monday night game tomorrow, so it'd have to be before or after.
Terry Brown. Terry again is with Cat Talks Wednesday. Terry, quick recap of the game, and then chat it up with Jeff.
Well, just a couple of points. I saw your BBN talk guys, Max, last night. We were all hanging out, talking and everything. It was just a flip from what we have seen the past couple of years between the teams. Kentucky was the much better team. Louisville tried to muck it up a little bit. There was that on-the-field skirmish between the tight end Crum and the head coach, and he wouldn't leave. The wheels have just fallen off. And the funny thing is about that, they knew this is how Bobby ran his program the first time. When Craig Thorpe came in, that was the talk that, he had to clean up a lot of messes, and they're right back, in the same point again. I'm not trying to, play my sad violin for Louisville. This is what they wanted, but they knew what they were getting into. But it was just a great atmosphere for the Kentucky fans. About the fourth quarter on, it was a party. It was a celebration. Was able to get down the field and kind of watch the players interact. Josh Allen grabbed the flag. One of the best scenes of the night was Benny Snell going around the Cardinal Stadium after the game and interacting with all the fans in the lower level. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really nice touch. Very he was cool. High-fiving, he was hugging and taking pictures, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. As you said, Kevin, being a Louisville resident myself, mm-hmm. Anytime you can beat Louisville, that's a great day.
Yeah, it is. Terry, any question?
Can I ask Terry a question?
Yeah, or that.
Terry, you obviously you know a lot about the Louisville team. I was amazed. The one thing that I always thought about Louisville, we used to go to the games. I would go down on the field and look. They were always big, athletic. They're still big and stuff, but I can't believe how – and again, there may be some injuries and defections and all that, but they just didn't look as tough, as big, as strong, as athletic. They just didn't look like a Louisville football team that I'm used to seeing.
Well, I listen to a lot of local sports radio, mm-hmm. and Mark Ennis and those guys on 93.9. And the thing about it is nobody likes Bobby Petrino, okay? And what that means is his assistant coaches, his position guys, his coordinators aren't elite. They're not coaching them up. They're not recruiting like they should. And so what happens is, and he's got, 2 sons and a son-in-law that are assistant coaches. Well, if you're having a problem with your assistant coach, who's the head coach's son, where do you go to solve that issue? So it's just a festering kind of thing that has come to a head this year, that you see that undisciplined nature that just they went through the motions for a big chunk of the year.
Yeah, let me jump in here, Terry, because Jeff and I were talking about this earlier. How much we were talking about how much was Lamar Jackson, who he's badass. I mean, he's a game changer. But to not have him this year clearly made a difference for this team. But we were just talking, a couple of years ago, Louisville's defense was like top 10, 15. So I mean, they have done a complete 180, and I actually kind of feel sorry for them too.
Well, and the thing is, you remember, as great as Lamar Jackson was, and he was objectively great those last 2 years, his Heisman Trophy winning year and his finalist year. But you would look at his numbers, and he would, throw for 300, run for 150 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, and they were just barely beating the Virginias of the world, the Wake Forest. So,
gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You kind of think that he had to do that for them to win. He covered up a lot of sins on the defense on both sides of the ball. I mean, we saw that by winning a couple years ago. When he wasn't perfect, Louisville was beatable. And we saw that, the last time at Cardinal Stadium.
No, those are good points. Good point. Let me get Carrie in. Carrie, what's up, lady? Your recap, and then one-on-one with Jeff.
I mean, what can you say? It was a thing of beauty all the way around. I was slightly disappointed that Benny didn't didn't end up with the yardage.
He's hurt. He got hurt, right?
Yeah, he's been banged up a lot the last couple. I don't think people realize. I think that he probably won't practice for the next couple of weeks. And bowl practice is pretty easy anyway, as Max will tell you. But I think that by the bowl rolls around, he'll be 100% again, and we'll see a real Benny Snell.
Well, and I just want to say overall, with the overall season, happier I could not be. As a longtime season ticket holder, and going back, I was in '94. I was in the band at the revival of the game or whatever when Kentucky won one game that year. And that was it. They beat Louisville. But I'm just so pleased with the season. I mean, 9 wins. What can you say? I mean, it's unbelievable for where this team was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Just great. So I'm a fan and very happy with how the season finished and how the whole thing played out, and that we're gonna be going to a pretty decent bowl game, I think, which makes me happy.
On our way to hopefully a 10-win season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How do you maintain that? It's a big question.
That is. Yeah, Jeff's proven there is a pooper in every party. Let's stay in the now. But you're right. We will look ahead in a bit. Carrie, anything else?
Yeah. So, Jeff, do you consciously, we hear these announcers especially during like basketball season or whatever, in terms of like, he just had missed a free throw, and then you're sitting there watching the TV and you're like, oh my God, he just jinxed him. And I've heard, other national announcers say, well, we're just giving the stat. We don't even think about that. Is that something that you don't think about either, or do you consciously not do things like that?
Well, the cool thing for me is this will be my 21st season doing Cincinnati Reds baseball, and I've got to meet all the great broadcasters. Buck, Vin Scully. I mean, Vin Scully would sit down with you before a game, and he would look at you and he'd say, Jeff, tell me something about this team I can use. And for those 2 minutes you're sitting across from him, he was invested. Wow. He looked you in the eye, and you're like, you're pinching yourself saying, this is Vin Scully that I'm talking to. But you know what he said? He goes, if I didn't tell people that, that Sandy Koufax is throwing a no-hitter, how are they going to know? So no, I mean, if a guy's perfect at this or that or the other, you've got to say it. It's like, do you wear the same color socks? Now, as a player, you're really superstitious. And Max will tell you that I did everything right. I put the right sock on the left. I got my right ankle tape, then my left ankle. It's just for whatever reason. And everybody has their different superstitions. But as a broadcaster, I don't think so. I don't. But I will tell you this, and this is something that I hate about broadcasting right now. It doesn't matter if who's this? I'm talking to Michele. If it was me and Michele doing Monday Night Football, people are going to watch Monday Night Football. They're not watching it because of the announcers on there. And too many announcers these days, because of ESPN, think that they're Chris Berman and they're ESPN. The people aren't watching to hear you; they're watching to listen about the game. Too many people make it about themselves. I could care less if people know that I'm doing the game. I just want them to go away from that game saying that guy gave me something that I didn't know about that team and the opponent. That's all I'm looking for.
All I'm interested in, guys, is what made Jeff laugh during the game. That's the best sound bites of the night. That game. Heather, jump in.
For me, regarding the game, I was just happy to see Kentucky to finally dominate from the start to the end. I think that we've all been waiting for a game like this. I think it was a perfect ending to the season. I know people were disappointed. If you saw the reactions across virtually every social media platform, you thought the wheels were coming off and there was a dumpster fire in Kroger Field because we lost to Tennessee. And look, it was a bad loss. But 9-3, and we've beat 6 teams that are bowl eligible. That's never happened before. I think this is a season everybody should be proud of, and I hope the program can maintain it. Real quickly, though, one thing I want to touch on: Terry Wilson had 2 throws last night that completely. I thought they were 2 of his best throws the entire season. It was the one to Lynn Bowden across the middle of the end zone, and then his touchdown throw to Ali. Jeff, I want to ask you, have you seen Terry progress throughout this season, much like I feel like I have?
I have, and I'll tell you what, I think the best throw he made all night was one that Lynn Bowden didn't catch.
Yes.
He put it in a perfect spot, and Lynn, I don't know why, only got one hand up. If he puts 2 hands up, he catches it and walks into the end zone. But, yeah, and the biggest thing that I've seen with him is when – at the start of the year, when Terry would drop back to pass in the pocket, you only have about 2.5 when the ball is snapped and it gets to your hands, you got about 2.5 seconds, and then all hell's gonna break loose, And what he was doing is he would stand in the pocket, which was great, but he would stand flat-footed and just look downfield. And at the last second, when stuff started to happen around him, he'd try to escape to the outside, which he could do at the junior college level, and you can do in high school. You can't do that against SEC. Now what he's doing, and he did this a lot last night, is when he would drop back, he'd set his feet, 1,000, then he would just slide a little bit in the pocket. And what that does, it creates space. He could step up in the pocket, and then the tackle has room to push that guy by you. So you're not trying to loop around him to the outside. Just step up, and the guy goes right by you. Or slide to your right, and he goes, and the tackle or the guard has enough room to push him underneath you. He's starting to learn the nuances of moving within the pocket, and that's what separates an okay or good quarterback from a Tim Couch and these guys, and an Easton and the guy, the guys that you're seeing, Tua down at Alabama. Those guys can help the line by just moving in the pocket a little bit instead of standing flat-footed. And I'm seeing him start to do that more and more.
Yeah.
I think he's learning the offense. I think it's starting. I don't know if it's second nature to him yet, but I can see him now thinking as he gets up to the line of scrimmage of what audibles or who's my hot read, and instead of just locking onto one guy early. So I'm starting to see that from him too.
Good points. Good point, Max. What's up? What are you doing over there?
I'm just chilling. I'm chilling and just listening and getting as much insight as I can get.
Well, stop chilling like a villain and give us the give us some Max words.
This is what we talked about on our show today, and what I overall, because during the season, and this is what I like from going from a player to now a follower of UK athletics, and not still having a little bit of the inside of what's going on, but not being constantly in the inside, is what's going on with this season offensively. And there was times I took the cop out of where it was just really easy just to blame Eddie Gran, say, well, he's not running the offense the way it's supposed to be. It's he's screwing up the offense. Eddie Gran did not just turn stupid this year. Just like with Bobby Petrino, he didn't turn dumb this season. That just naturally doesn't happen with people. And so I kept digging in more and more of what's different. And you look at Eddie Gran. Eddie Gran was brought in to run the offense that he ran at Cincinnati. And he had every element going into 2016 season, which is unreal that we had Eddie Gran now for 3 years. But going into the 2016 season, he had a perfect setup for it with Boom Williams and Drew Barker. That was going to be his offense.
Right.
those guys fit perfectly into that system. You lose Drew first game, and then Boone starts getting banged up, and then all of a sudden you get this bruiser by the name of Benny Snell. All of a sudden you've got to change your mentality up. All of a sudden he goes more and more to whatever Steven Johnson's able to do, and you rely so much on Benny. And I think everyone, and I think Eddie Gran did as well, we fell into a lull of sticking with a run power game and a one-dimensional offense. And we saw that this year once people started teeing off on Benny, putting 7-8 in the box and saying, you know what, you're not going to beat us with the run game inside.
Right. Yeah.
You'll have to beat us in the air. And it exposed UK, but Eddie Gran continually tweaked to what Terry Wilson has the ability to run the offense at. And I would argue against Middle Tennessee State, we saw it. And last night we definitely saw it. The way that this offense, this is truly the Cincinnati offense last night, the way Coach Stoops wanted it originally run, simply because Louisville went into this game and God and everyone at Cardinal Stadium thought that it was going to be Benny Snell up the middle every single time. Because in all honesty, UK had the capability of doing it against his Louisville defense.
Right.
And they burned them in the air. They burned him on the outside. I mean, A.J. Rose had himself a day running East-West game. You were able to get Lynn Bowden wide open several times, and then Terry Wilson just beating you with his wheels as well. So the biggest thing I took away from is now is the time to kind of get off of Eddie Gran's bat, because now we're seeing what the offense is going to be looking like going into the bowl game, because now it's a multi-dimensional offense, and it's whoever they get paired up with, whether it's at the Citrus Bowl or Outback Bowl, whatever the Big Ten team is, they're going to be scratching their head because all of a sudden it's not one-dimensional anymore. And you'll have a healthy Benny Snell, so you're going to be able they're going to have the ability to attack it all at different ends.
No,
Max, do you think that Stoops trusts the offense now? Which I don't think he did at the start of the year.
Good question.
I think after this game, yeah, I really do. I don't even think that it was a matter of distrust at the beginning of the year, because I thought at least to me, now granted, take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm very biased towards offenses, and I will always give the benefit of the doubt, with the exception of Wildcat without motion. That is by far the dumbest play in college football.
Thank you.
If you continually do it, I question your sanity.
Thank you.
But, and again, they did it against Louisville with Wildcat in motion. But I think during the middle of the year, absolutely, there was a panic mode, because it basically – I don't know what the reason was. If it was Terry Wilson just didn't have the football IQ to run the offense, he wasn't understanding it, he was overthinking it, I don't know. I think going into this Louisville game and what they were able to do, what they were able to produce, I mean, putting up a lot of yards, yeah, I think now you can thoroughly trust this offense, because I think it's back to what Stoops originally hired Gran to run it as. I think this is, with the exception of the Southern Miss game, the first half of the Southern Miss game, this is the offense that Stoops wanted from the very beginning. It just took 3 years to get it.
Let me jump in with another topic, guys. I'm gonna start this with Jeff, and I want everyone on the panel to chime in. Mark Stoops, Coach Stoops, if he wins, if Kentucky, his team, wins their bowl game, he will have raked in an extra cool $1 million in bonus this year. Yeah, I guess, I'm going to not look at it from a Kentucky fan perspective, but Jeff, aren't coaches, when they're brought in and they're given these fat contracts, aren't they really, at the end of the day, aren't they really supposed to win? I mean, I'm having kind of a hard time digesting the fact that he's going to rake in 7 digits because he's doing what we're, as fans, expect him to do.
I have a less problem with guys getting bonuses for things than I do with a coach who's a loser or his team is a loser A great situation is the one you just saw at Louisville. They're going to pay a dude $14 million to walk away, not to coach. And the agent that came up with that is the smartest
genius
in the world. And it's the same thing in baseball. The contracts are all guaranteed. People don't realize that. So if they cut Homer, the Reds are possibly going to cut Homer Bailey. They're going to have to pay him $28 million. His $25 million or $23 million that they owe him for this season, and a $5 million buyout.
Don't even get me started on the Cincinnati Reds. That's a whole freaking yeah. Good God.
I know. As a girl that lives in Cincinnati, the Reds, Jeff, I have a question for you later about them.
But don't you guys and all of you agree with this too? If a coach leaves a school, so let's say Jeff Brom goes to Louisville, okay? Mm-hmm. All those players on Purdue should be able to leave if they want to go to any school they want and not have to sit out a year.
Right.
If the coach doesn't have to sit out, why should they have to sit out?
I totally agree.
Because you're not going to the University of Kentucky. You're going to the University of Calipari.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that as a player, because there's still a lot of people that seem to think that the school, in this case, we'll stay with the basketball program, the school, Kentucky, is bigger than Calipari, the brand. That is not the case.
No,
in some schools it might be, but not here.
No.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Michele, jump in. Same topic. The Stoops bonus money.
I don't have an issue with it. I think, it's you can say their job is to win, and that should be enough incentive. But if I'm not mistaken, the first 2 or 3 years of Stoops' contract, he had these incentives, but he also had no buyout clause in his at that time.
Oh.
So, I think he gave, a little, not that the university got money for that, but they could have ditched him and not owed him a dime. And I think, I'm kind of, if I were Mitch, I'd say, he gave us a little bit, so I don't have a problem giving him bonuses. And, it's like there's one account on Twitter, everybody knows him, Brow Down or whatever, but he always, every game this year, he's like, there's 2 stances for Stoops. Far him, F-A-R, the Kentucky.
Far him, or how we going to keep him? And, and that's, of course, we've seen that in all these UK groups. That's what everybody's saying. Oh, my gosh, everybody's going to want to come and get Stoops. And keep him happy. I mean, I guess I don't see that there's any reason that he would go anywhere else right now, because he's positioned himself nicely to leave a legacy for Kentucky football. If what he's built now, if he's got a strong enough foundation to keep building on that and at least maintain the 8-win type plateau for a number of years. Like I said, if those incentives hasten the process along, go for it. Fair enough. Carrie, go.
Yeah, I agree with Michele on that. I don't have a problem with the incentives, and you're supposed to be winning, but I think on some level, everybody in their job wants some kind of incentive, whether it's, some kind of stock option or, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. What I'm amazed by is these guys who are getting these deals, and these schools that are signing these deals, like with Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M, and I can't remember, somebody else got the same kind of deal. I don't know who the agent is, but Sumlin got it all. He got the whole entire thing, right? All of his money, and he didn't have to wait to get another job. Like, he was going to get that money even if he got another job.
It wasn't deferred. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I'm telling you, I don't understand if schools just aren't reading the contracts they're signing or what, because they want to get coaches so bad. But that's starting to become an issue, I think.
All this knowledge, Jeff, I'm telling you, man, the way they're paying coaches right now.
I'll tell you one thing.
Get in the game.
This is the one thing that we say as players too, and I know when they were trying to hire Coach Stoops, a lot of us there's a Facebook page. It's called The Fellas, and these are all guys who played here at UK, and I don't know if Max is on that or not. But one of the things is you always say you get what you pay for. You know, you look at some of these assistant coaches for LSU, for Alabama, for Ohio State, who are making over $1 million, and we don't have that here. And I understand Mark is getting all this money, his assistants aren't. So to me, if I'm Stoops and I'm getting an extra, whatever it is, 25 or 50,000 or 250 a win, whatever, I'm spreading out through my assistant coaches, because those are the guys you got to keep happy. And I don't know if anybody knows this story, but when Harbaugh got the job at Michigan, the first call he made was to Vince Morrow. And he said, I want you as my recruiting coordinator, and here's what I'll pay you. And he said, okay, I just have to call Stoops and tell him I'm leaving. And he called Mark and said, Harbaugh's offered me a job, and this is the money he's giving me. He goes, will you give me 30 minutes? And he said, okay. And he called Mitch Barnhart. He said, Mitch, we can't lose him. If we lose him, everything I do is you know, he's my guy. We have to match this. And Barnhart said, it's done. Go ahead. And called him back and said, we'll match it. And he stayed. And those are the guys that you know, you can say all you want about the head coach.
Right.
But you look at Nick Saban's staff, he's got 3 former head coaches on that staff, and he has another one who's an unpaid guy in Butch Jones. And Ohio State, same way. You got Schiano and those guys over there who have been head coaches before. And you look at Kentucky staff, and they have one guy, Dean Hood, who was a head coach in Eastern Kentucky. Other than that, I'm not sure they have another head coach on their whole, you know, of any of the systems.
Good point. Terry Brown, jump in.
Well, I think if we're going to talk about coaching incentives, you have to look at Randy Edsall at UConn. And I forget what account I follow on Twitter retweets this.
Yes.
We can debate whether or not you should pay coaches to win, but he gets bonuses if they score first. He gets bonuses, you know, on the coin flip. I don't know about that, but they got beat.
The coin flip.
Well, dude, they haven't scored first yet this year. I don't think so.
I think they did one game. He got a bonus on a game they lost by 30 points because his team UConn had a higher third down conversion percentage than the team that beat him by 30 points, and he got money for that. Look, I will gladly pay for wins than that nonsense.
Oh, no.
You know, that agent is, I mean, that's how you get it. You know, I mean.
Wait, what does that say about the school, though?
Yeah.
Seriously, what does that say about the school?
No self-esteem. Exactly. I mean, like if you score, I mean, it is seriously the most bizarre thing I've ever seen when it comes to big-time athletics. The score first, or, I mean, it is so many things. Yards gained per game. I mean, it is the most bizarre contract, and I need to find that and tweet that out because it is mind blowing.
Wow.
So pay Stoops. That's what I'm saying. I'm okay. Yeah.
Heather, finish his topic.
Yeah, I'm fine with paying a coach incentives to win certain games or get to a certain, I don't know, but if they get to a bowl game, whatever, I'm fine with the way that Stoops' contract is set up. But, you know, much like we saw with Bobby Petrino and now what Louisville is going to pay out, or now even this coach from UConn, paying these coaches, or asinine coaches, whichever you prefer, paying them these crazy salaries up front. I mean, you have to give them something to get them here. I get that, but I kind of feel like some universities like Louisville, it's imploded on them at this point. And even like UConn, who in some form or another were desperate when they were trying to make this hire. I don't think that's the way to go. You're not incentivizing your coach to keep improving your program. I mean, if you're giving him all this money up front, he's just going to sit back and hire all of his buddies and his family and do whatever he wants to do and not invest his time into the university into the program to make it better, which is what I think Stoops has done, which is why I'm fine with paying him. I'm fine if they want to pay his assistants because as of right now, it's working. They're 9-3 and they're going to play in probably one of the better bowls, at least that I've seen in my 38 years. So did we lose you, Kevin?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on mute.
Unmute.
Heather, didn't you just have a birthday?
I did. I just turned 38 November 18th.
Well, Jeff, are you the residential birthday singer?
I'm not going to make Jeff sing to me. That's
that's a soundbite for me. Don't let me run my show, Heather.
It's funny you ask that because I've gotten in trouble and Tom Brenneman continues to get in trouble on Fox because we do not have whatever the stupid, I don't know how much it costs, but we're not allowed to sing any song or say the lyrics of a song
because of copyrights. Yeah.
How stupid is that?
Yeah.
So it's somebody's birthday, you can't go, happy birthday to you. No, you can't do that. That's going to cost us $10,000. Come on.
Well, I'm not. I don't think this show is on Fox network status.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. There you go.
They say it's your birthday.
Even better. All right. A few more topics, and we'll shut it down for the night because it's 9:47, and I appreciate everybody sticking around with me tonight. Kentucky, we've talked about the potential bowl game. I think some of the pundits out there are saying the Citrus Bowl is a realistic versus a Big Ten team, which might be Penn State or Northwestern, blah, blah, blah. But question, I'm going to start with Max, you're a former player, and then we'll go to Jeff and we'll go around the whole panel. I don't think this is going to happen, but the scenario nowadays when it comes to NFL prospects and bowl games, some of these kids are electing to sit out, and those questions were posed to Benny and Josh. I'm curious, Max, as a player, if Benny or Josh elected to sit out, what would your reaction be?
Well, as a player, you never ever get angry at a player for doing what's best for him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
You never do. I remember when we all sat in the team meeting room with Randall after he made his decision to go pro after the bowl game.
Right.
And him just saying, this is what I talked with my family. This is the best situation for my family, and we're going to elect to go ahead and declare for the draft. I don't have an issue with it. I really don't, because at the end of the day, it's a game, but it's a game for some guys that did not have as good a living situations, that as good income support like I did in college. These are guys where, I still had my mom and dad that I was able to rely on. If I ran out of money on a scholarship check, I rarely did, but I had that fallback where I knew guys that were giving their scholarship check up to give back to their family. And so I don't know Josh's situation. I don't know Benny's situation. I know Josh has got a kid, and that changes things. And all I know is working in corporate America. I've known this guy for a while. When he didn't have kids, he was, very kind of loosey-goosey. He was a great guy to be around. He was never really on edge. Once he had a kid, he was he turned into a shark, and he was doing anything he could to provide for his family. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I don't blame if they chose to do that. Respect the kid's decision, because this is a 1% chance college football players is to get to this level, and putting yourself in the best situation possible, not for you but your family. I don't blame them one bit for doing it.
Yeah, and we've touched Josh has a child, and those are game changers. Jeff, add your
I'm a little older than Max, obviously, and that never came up when I was in school. Well, the fact that a one and done it never came up when we were in school, and it was an honor to put that uniform on each and every time, and that one more time to go out there and play with these guys that you have spent 4 and sometimes 5 years, like I did, bleeding, living, eating, sleeping with these guys for 5 years, and so we never even thought of not playing. I mean, Mark Logan or Mark Higgs or Monty Dawson or George Adams. I mean, I can go on and on and on with the guys that I played with that were in the NFL, and Dermonti's in the Hall of Fame. And the reason we won that game against Wisconsin was because of Dermonti Dawson making unbelievable blocks. And if he wasn't there, we don't win that game. But it's a different time now. And like Max said, you can't hate a guy for not doing that. I understand why he wouldn't, but I also understand as a player, who's what if Terry Wilson, if this was his year, he said, I'm not going to play in the bowl. You're done. You got no chance of winning without him, right?
Right. No. Right.
So I mean, it's a tough situation, man, and I don't see it ending anytime soon.
Michele.
I have more of an issue with NBA players sitting out to rest in November, for crying out loud. I mean, they're little wusses. But I think Max said it best. You're not going to hate on a kid that has to make a decision based on what is best for him. As a fan, we might be disappointed. But again, I'm not the one that has to support his family after he leaves university, and he is. So you hope to see him play, but I'm not going to get mad if they don't.
Gotcha. Terry Brown.
Oh, I'm on board with everybody else. After the game, of course, the questions came up with Benny and Josh. Benny's it was joked around. His best move of the night was kind of dodging that bowl game question. He kind of juked a little bit on that. He did say he still had work to do, but he would not elaborate if that was still in a Kentucky uniform. But if they've got the opportunity to do that, I don't begrudge these guys anything. We don't know their situations. We don't know, their what their plans are. So selfishly, I want these guys to play just like I wanted Anthony Davis to come back for his sophomore and junior year. But when you've got that money involved, they've got different decisions than I had to make when I was in school.
Carrie Lewis, in your news, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with what everybody has been saying. Yeah, definitely be disappointed if they don't play because I want to win the bowl game. Just getting there is awesome, but you want to win it, and your best player's not playing, that definitely decreases your chances. But at the same time, I get it also because look at what happened to the kid at UCF, a horrific leg injury. And, something like that happens to you in a bowl game. Well, now you're kind of your draft status then becomes up in the air. Our team's still going to take a chance on you or whatever. So, yeah, it sucks if they don't play, but totally understandable because you don't want to leave possible money on the table.
Heather.
Yeah, obviously as a fan, of course you're disappointed, but as somebody who, again, isn't in the position that these guys are, where you're talking millions of dollars and having the capability to take care of your families, for a very long time, I don't fault them if they want to sit out. I don't. Now, I think that NFL teams have been a little bit better, well, namely the Bengals have anyway, about taking kids that have gotten hurt in college and letting them kind of rehab and do what they need to do to get back out on the field. But if you're talking about it, like Josh Allen, for an example, I mean, he's going to go in the first round. I mean, for him, this is the difference between making really, really big money or going in the second and third round because he's injured and not making near as much as he would have if he would have sat out and not gotten hurt. So I get it. And the same with Benny Snell, even though I don't know where he's projected in the draft right now. I haven't looked at that, but
late second, early third.
But still, if he feels like that's the best decision for him, you know what, Benny? Thanks for what you've given us, while you've been at Kentucky, and I get it. I mean, as a fan, I'm a little disappointed. I'd love for them to help us win a game, but I get it too. So,
okay, fair enough.
Devin, I will tell you this: as a player too, if you say I'm playing, you got to play, because if you go out there and half-ass it, and Max will tell you, that's when you get hurt. If you're playing,
Amen.
You got to play. You can't just say I'm only going to pay 20 plays. And if you're, what you could do, the thing with Josh, it's a little different. is you could say he's only going to play on third downs, and rush the passer type of situations. But if you play, you've got to play hard, because when you don't, that's when you get hurt. You're much more susceptible to get hurt when you're out there not going 100%. Right, Mac?
Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely, 100%. Max. All right, last little segment of this night. I'm going to let you guys throw out a topic that is something that we haven't talked about, something that is sports related. Michele, I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, geez. Why me? You didn't tell me I had to come up with a topic.
All right. Did you refer to?
I mean, give me a second. I mean, that's dirty pool, Kevin.
I know.
This is like the sports reporters in the last.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, but they know it's coming.
This is why my show. It's shooting from. It's a shoot. It's quick. It's
shooting from the lip.
Yeah, it's not rehearsed.
Well, I'm going to toss it because we have Jeff on the show, and he would have information, and because I cover a lot of the women's games. But how big do you think the win was for the Kentucky women's basketball at the Paradise Jam, which is, I mean, those were 3 back-to-back games with some pretty strong competition, and even with Agechi and Tatiana were out one game, I think, with injuries, and played the third game injured. This seemed to me like a pretty strong statement for Matthew Mitchell's team this year, and I wonder, Jeff, if you agree with me on that.
Yeah, I do. I think that the key to their success this year, look, Macy Morris is Macy, and you're getting great guard play, but the 2 freshmen are just ridiculous in their abilities, and I mean, those 2, they could play for Connecticut, don't you think? I mean,
oh yeah,
yes, and I think Matthew has finally taken that next step in his recruiting. And to win that Paradise Jam, I think that was huge. I mean, look at the teams they beat there. You beat a ranked team, and then the next 2 games you beat UCLA and North Carolina. That's
and they've
good.
never beaten North Carolina before, ever, I don't believe.
Right.
And would you also agree? I think Jada Roper is probably one of the most underrated players on that team.
Well, she can shoot, can't she? And wasn't known for that coming in.
Oh, and never stops smiling. I mean, even while she's issuing a dagger to their hearts, she'll laugh all the way to the bank.
Nice. All right. Nice. You did pretty good for giving you short notice, Michele. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Terry Brown, your final shot.
Let's have a funeral for this notion that Kentucky is just a one-sport school. Living in Louisville, I hear it. I know when people travel around to hear it. Let's talk about the full athletic department, an Elite 8 men's soccer. Michele just touched on the women's basketball team. The volleyball team, undefeated through the SEC. I mean, if you're just still focused on men's basketball at Kentucky, you're really missing it. And I'm saying that to our own fans to support them and to other fan bases. It's not just men's basketball. It's a little bit of everything. So, shout out to Mitch Barnhart, who gets, I think, unfairly criticized a lot. He has built a juggernaut of a program.
Well, let's
national champion rifle team too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
They beat Army again. I mean, how impressive! They beat Army every
week. We beat a school that's
scary,
known for military. I mean, that's kind of
scary.
Exactly.
Either we really got a bad problem with our military, or the UK rifle team is really, 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 really freaking good.
Yeah,
and they recruit internationally. That's what I found out at the camp.
Whoa. We are recruiting international people with guns.
Yes.
that says a lot. I mean, that's like a CNN topic here. Don't make me go Anderson Cooper here.
But I feel bad. I can't remember the young man's name that was like the National Rifle Player of the Year, the MVP of the team last year.
Lars.
He was from Lars. Yeah, he was from, and like he was like one and done. Like, I mean, he was fantastic. And
Wait a minute. He one and done rifle.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There
Now
you go.
he's
Rifle goes.
college rifle, killing it.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
There's a lot of one and done rifle.
He's getting full, a six-figure salary as a sniper. It's basically
and then you look at Sydney, Go Sid Go on the track team last year. I mean, we are bringing in great athletes across the board.
Well, let's just keep things in perspective. It's November 25th on a Sunday night at 10 o'clock. And this show started at 8:30. Where we at little after 10. I want to say a very small percentage of this show has been about Kentucky basketball. So that's where UK athletics is right now.
And the men probably had the least exciting win of the whole weekend.
I'm not. Yeah, that's a whole nother stuff. I'm not. This team's that basketball team's got a ways to go. They got a ways to go, and we'll talk about that.
Are you new here? I mean,
good God, that was Carrie.
Yup. When are teams going to learn that you don't dump the Gatorade until the clock hits 0?
I know.
I mean, for real.
The curse was lifted on
the Bluegrass America.
Yeah,
it absolutely was.
Yes. You got to wait till it hits 0, people, to dump the Gatorade.
What about that game, though?
Yeah, 7 overtimes. It's insane.
74 to 72? Is that what it was the final?
Was it like 70-something points were
74
scored
to
after
72?
Yeah, 74, 72.
Gatorade was dumped.
Right.
After the Gatorade was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Did Stoops get a Gatorade bad last night?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I didn't.
All right.
And a little tidbit about that, I was talking to Slacks there, the media person for football, and we were asking her what the mood was like in the locker room, and she said it was pretty subdued because they expected to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like there wasn't, we said, was Stoops, was he crowd surfing? She said no. The guys were just kind of like, yeah, we won, we're 9-3, but it wasn't that big of a deal. So just a little tidbit there.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I love those visuals of the L's down by our boys. Just flipping saying.
The best visual all night was when Lynn Bowden did that
little strut.
Oh my gosh!
How does a guy like Lynn Bowden be that wide open for about 4 seconds?
I mean, he was back there doing a Broadway dance. I'm open. Look at me. That's the ball.
He opened the Top Golf, Kevin. He opened the Top Golf.
The Top Golf. He got on. He posted something on social media, and I mean, he was like, "Where here we go."
Yeah, gets this. Hey, yeah, Terry, here. Pass the ball. I'm here. I'm wide open. Put the ball back in the pocket. Grab it, and there you go.
Heather. Speak of.
Actually, my question is non-UK related, and it's geared more toward Jeff, obviously. And because since we have you here, I have to ask you this.
What is so special about Jeff Piecoro?
I'm a Cincinnati girl. I live in Cincinnati, so obviously I am a Cincinnati Reds fan, and my family, we watch a lot of baseball games, even when they're bad. So we feel like we see Jeff Piecoro all the time on TV. Honestly, my question to you, Jeff, is obviously, Price is gone. We've now hired David Bell. What do you think he's going to bring to this team to help not only energize the players, but possibly even the fan base?
Wow.
He's like, why did you have to get serious?
Well, I think the one thing that he brings is, in sports, we call it a little bit of the red ass, where he's not going to take any crap from the guys. I think with Brian Price, he was their buddy because he was their pitching coach first. And so the pitchers were kind of his friend. And then when he ascended to the manager, they were still his friend. They didn't fear him. You have to fear your head coach. And I don't mean physically fear him, but there has to be, you have to have some fear of him because he's your coach. You have to do what he says. And as a buddy or a friend, you're like, oh, come on, you didn't really mean that. I'm going to do this. No, I really mean it. Come on. David's not going to take any crap from any of these guys. Not going to let them walk over. And with Jim Riggleman, it was, you're the interim manager. You're not going to be here next year anyway. I don't have to listen to you. David's going to be a little tougher on him. And look, the one thing in athletics that people don't understand, these guys want discipline. Most kids, and I think it's more so in football and basketball, come from broken families or single-parent households, and they don't really get a lot of discipline, and they're searching for that somewhere in their life, and that's their coach or their manager. It's stupid that you call them a manager in baseball, but that's what it is. But anyway.
Speaking of managers in baseball, this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm glad, Heather, you brought this topic up, and then Jeff said what he said. But, Jeff, you might have a little sway or pull in this, but I want to go on record to say if you're a manager – you should not be dressing up in baseball. You should not be dressing like a player, because I have this visual of Don Zimmer in my head, in a uniform. He needs to put on a hoodie or something to that effect.
Slacks, a running suit,
something, khakis. Go hardball on us. I don't care.
It's tradition, Kevin. It goes back to the days when.
No, I know, but no other sport does that. No other.
Yeah,
what would you do if Stoops showed up in pads?
You don't have a tradition of football coaches having to also play on the team. Baseball's a different story.
It is, but still. I mean, those guys just, they're past their prime, and they just.
And you know what? That's also the reason how come you'll never see Bob Huggins coach in the NBA, because they have to wear suits.
I respect Bob Huggins in that jumper. I mean, what is that? That warm-up suit, whatever.
The wind jacket thing.
Hey, anybody that can rock a Colonel Mustard suit and still look cool is okay in my book.
Very cool. All right. All right, guys. Great show tonight. Jeff, you were a trooper and gave me 90 plus minutes of your time tonight on a Sunday night.
There you go. Anytime you want me.
Badass. I got some people who do podcasts here. Before we shut it down, we'll let you guys promote. Start with Michele. Michele, your Monday night show. What's up with you?
We'll have a show tomorrow night, and somebody will be the guest.
Do you want, if you give Jeff the number, I'm going to challenge him to call in just to say, hey.
He's got a game tomorrow night, he said.
Oh, okay.
I'll call Michele.
You want to check this out, guys. Last night, Jeff and the whole crew, they were here in Louisville. And I told Jeff, I'm like, after the game, I'm at Terry, this location, Terry Brown, this Diamond Pub in St. Matthews. I'm there watching the game, and then some of my music friends are jamming out, and I was like, Jeff, you want to have a drink? Come over here and have a drink. He doesn't come to me. Where do you wind up going at midnight-ish in Louisville, Jeff?
Me, Tom, Dick, our spotter, our producer, ended up at one of the great establishments in Louisville off of Hurstbourne Lane, the Waffle House.
Yes. Wait a minute. Me, Tom, Dick. Is the other guy Harry just for really? Can we say he's Harry?
Yeah. Tom, Dick, and Harry and me.
And you. So, hey, Terry, I had it. I tried to get JP to, hang out in the Ville last night, but to no avail. Anyway.
He said diamonds, and I was thinking something totally different.
You thought those here, Terry and I know those as PTs and
that's it.
Godfather, Trixies. Yeah.
Well, hey, don't be putting me into this.
No, I said Terry, you know of. I didn't.
Yes. I know of those. Yes, thank you. Let's be clear.
The sad thing is, I know exactly what you're talking about. I haven't been there, but I know what you're talking about.
God love it. All right, guys.
I always wanted to stop by the one that's right by Churchill Downs, the track there.
No, don't do that.
Because of that sign. It's like, what is it? The sign says 50 ugly women and 2 beautiful ones.
Deja vu, baby. Deja vu.